Good afternoon, Andrew Dobbin here. We're on the Facebook Live event with Nigel Beggs, and hopefully you can see Nigel Beggs' tagline here is putting the axe into tax. So you don't have to be uh, what's the words I was going to use? But it doesn't take much to work out that Nigel's actually an accountant, so he has a bit of a personality to come with that. So Nigel, welcome on to the Facebook Live event today.
Thanks very much, Andrew.
Good
to be here.
Yeah. Well, sir, it's taken a bit of time out and all the rest. So tell me just very briefly about your accountancy business, just very, very briefly, just a wee bit about it and what's going on in your company at the minute.
So we're about 4.5 years old. Probably moved into an office just over a year ago and taken on 2 members of staff. So we're a growing sort of chartered accountancy practice. I've been chartered accountant now for about 8 years. Just sort of doing all aspects of accounts, tax returns, payroll, just all sorts of general compliance. And obviously at the minute advising a lot of clients in around furloughing and grant support and business loans and just trying to get their businesses through this difficult period, obviously.
Oh, excellent, Nigel. We have some people who've just jumped on already who are live with us on Facebook today. See, Darrell Young has come in here and said, "Good morning, guys," and just let you know, Darrell, it's now good afternoon. So we're glad you're with us. And again, if you have any questions, and I will put this out here for Nigel as an accountant at the moment, get it into the chat box today, and we'll be able to ask Nigel a little about it. So Nigel, how is we're sitting at the moment? We've been in lockdown now for, I think somebody said the other day, 7 weeks or whatever it is. What is happened to you in your personal life and business life with the whole COVID thing? What's really happening with you?
So I suppose from a business point of view, any form of communication has exploded. Anytime the Chancellor Rishi Sunak was on making an announcement, sometimes the phone was going even during the announcement. Just people maybe expecting you to have interpreted it already, and just trying to give them the best advice as the news was filtering through. So it's been quite a frantic time, I suppose, in terms of trying to liaise with all the clients and get all the information out there and make sure that the businesses are getting the support available to them. On a more personal front, I suppose, it's been probably quite enjoyable to spend more time at home. Became a father late last year, so I'm getting to spend a bit more time with my baby daughter and my wife, and which is it's good. Just ordinarily, I would play bowls over the summer, so I'd be quite busy with that, and it's just giving me more time to just put into perspective the important things in life and just embrace and enjoying those.
So what would you say has been, from you when lockdown, you're in your office, you're working at home, what's some of the benefits you think that you've had of all this whole crisis, if you might call it that? What's the benefits for you and your family as such?
I suppose there's no travel time to the office, so there's more time to spend with them. If I need to help out eat during the day or whatever for half an hour or something, it's a bit easier from that point of view. Obviously, any parents know that having a baby can be difficult at times, and there can be trying moments and everything else. So it's just being on hand there to assist with things and help out from that point of view.
I think for a lot of people, they've found this whole thing, in many ways, it's been so different. They're getting at home, they're not traveling, and yet there's many people, I suppose, maybe struggling as well. But the biggest issue, I suppose, is the whole mindset of even working from home and trying to set boundaries around it in many ways.
Yeah.
The big thing you've seen, people on Zoom calls now, even business calls, you're seeing the kids running in, you're seeing the dog or the cat, and you're actually, you're seeing it at people's homes. Like we're looking at your home today. Yeah, I'm in an office with all these books and stuff, but your office, I can see in yours, you've got pictures up and family and stuff like that. So you really are getting an opening into people's home life.
Yeah. It's kind of a room in the house that I had sort of geared towards an office whenever I was working from home originally. But that sort of has moved on since business has grown and developed, and obviously taking on the staff members has sort of encouraged me and given me, I suppose, hope and support that moving into an office would be the right thing for my business.
So what would you say for your own self now at the moment? What's, you're saying it's good in some ways. You've got, working from home, able to help at home, less travel, less cost in coffee that we're talking about earlier. You're not spending as much going out to drink coffee and all these things. But what would you say is one of your greatest challenges maybe at the moment within your own business? And yet, I know you're saying you're busy earlier.
Yeah, I suppose it's my staff, and as they're fantastic. I completely trust both of them. But they are both still studying, and one's going through their technicians and the other's going through their certified exams. So I suppose it's just being on hand to assist them. It's more difficult because we're not in the office together. We're trying to bounce things back and forth on WhatsApp in a group chat or messages or on emails, and it's more time consuming from that point of view. You can't just walk 2 seconds across the office to help them out and speak to them face to face and make sure they totally understand what they're doing.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was listening to a seminar recently, and the man was saying he talked about his staff that they were doing morning huddles, he called it, where they were having these morning. It might only be 10 minutes, 15 minutes, but they were doing that all the time. I see we have a question in from Andrew Coates. Nice to have you on the live stream here, Andrew. We will come to that in a moment. Some of those questions, which is fantastic. But just before we even get into that, just a wee bit more on the personal side, Nigel. Forgetting about business for a moment, so let's go back to the personal. I know you've got other interests outside of work. So, what's your greatest goal that you have for your personal life, or what would you say is on your bucket list at the minute?
I suppose the more prevalent thing in my life at the minute is obviously my daughter, and she's sort of come up to 6 months old. So I suppose my personal goal at the minute is just being the best father I can be to her. She obviously needs a lot of support at the minute while she's developing. So in that front, it's her and making sure I can be the best parent I can be, and setting her up to develop into a good person and a good adult.
No, very good. So thinking of that, the goals, and that's all. I suppose that's around family and stuff like that. And so, what would you say has been one of your, if you take away family or take away business, what's been one of your greatest accomplishments, maybe in life, apart from the work side and the family side?
Outside work and family, I play bowls. Outdoor mostly at the minute. Probably my biggest accomplishment to date has been getting selected to play for Ireland. I've 5 caps now for Ireland at outdoor level. And probably even last summer was probably our biggest accomplishment, where we actually won the home international series. We beat Scotland in the last game by 1 shot. It largely came down to the very last bowl of the game. So to beat Scotland in their home sort of territory, partisan crowd, just nothing sort of gets any better than that from a sporting point of view.
So would that be one of your greatest passions then, would be the bowls, would it?
It definitely would be. It's my release. It's my getaway from work and stress and pressures and everything. It's just fresh air, bit of competition. Probably never ever expected to get to senior international level, so it was sort of been a welcome reward, I suppose, for all the hard work, cold nights, wet nights, everything else spent in the bowling ground.
Because the idea, I'd always thought of bowling, don't take us the wrong way, but it was always for old people.
Yeah, it's still there's people still have that I suppose opinion of it. But they just take the Irish international bowls team. You've probably people on that from as young as 17 or 18, probably up now to maybe mid-50s being the oldest. And it's just one of those sports. It's no matter what age, it's all about your ability. You could be 18, as fit as a fiddle, and competing with someone who's 70, and probably they're still capable of beating you.
Yeah, very good. So I take it the season for bowling is just coming in now, isn't it?
Well, outdoor season would normally start in around the start of April.
Okay.
But everything, like with coronavirus, everything's been put on hold and pretty much cancelled.
Well, I know
The
you're sorry.
international series is already cancelled for this year.
Right. Okay. I know that you're originally from the Larne area.
I am indeed.
And so, were you part of the Bulls in Larne, or are you still there? You still keep working from there, or?
I started off playing bowls, outdoor bowls for Curran in Larne. Played there for a number of years. There was sort of maybe a second division team, so sort of progressed from there and decided to move a bit further up the coast to Whitehead. And I've been playing in Whitehead now for, I'm sure, 10 years or so. They're just play at a higher level, and they're always challenging for leagues and cups and everything else. And with 4 international players at Whitehead. One of those players is actually an elite player. He's represented Ireland at many times at the Commonwealth Games. So it's good just to have a club mate at that level, I suppose, and another club mate who's played for Ireland at probably a countless number of times. And then there's myself, and actually Jack, who works for me, is an international as well.
All right, very good, very good. So, have you any other sporting interests or any other interests outside of sport?
Well, that's my main playing interest, but I'm a big football fan too. But it's more just spectating.
All right. So, what team do you support?
For my sins, Manchester United.
All right. Okay.
I'm sure I'll get some flack at that in a minute from all the Liverpool fans and whatever else. But we're obviously going through difficult times at the minute.
All right. So I'm interested. We have a number of people who's watching on here, so it'd be nice to get you on the keyboards there and see what you think of Manchester United for Nigel there. See whether he should be staying with them or moving. Maybe it's a lifetime supporting him, is it?
Oh, there's no moving. It's loyalty. It's like everything in life, whether you're in business or whatever, you're looking at building your loyalty. I'm loyal to.
I wouldn't even know who the manager is now. So
yeah.
So there you are. So sports, football's not one of my things personally, but anyway. So football, watching, bowls, active in that there. Any other interest in, Nigel?
Probably like a good crime drama on TV.
All right, okay, very good. So, what do you like watching, or is there any particular series you watch, or?
I kind of watched all the BBC ones, like so your Spooks, The Fall. Sort of, I like the local-based ones too, but just sort of like following the storyline and trying to work out the mystery behind it all as to who's been killing people, I suppose. With it being murder mystery type things. I suppose I've always liked games and logic games and working things out. So I suppose that's fallen into my TV habits and stuff too.
Oh, very good. Alan Hill, do you know him?
I do. He's a fellow Whitehead bowler.
All right. He says only one team. He says in Manchester, and that's Manchester City. So there you are.
That's why there's no fans.
Oh, well, I'm not going to go there. I'm not getting into that on a social media today. That could drag up the whole pile of things. So yeah, oh, very good. So from a business point of view, Nigel, you did talk about where you are in business and how you've been growing. So what's your sort of goal for your business now going forward, and where you've been? So tell us a wee bit about your journey, maybe so far, and what you're aiming to do with the business.
So the journey so far, I was employed to start with for 10.5 years, and just sort of always had that entrepreneurial spirit where I wanted to try it for myself. Just kind of got myself stuck in a bit of a rut and not really progressing. So I sat down and took the decision that I would try it for myself. Started off initially working from home, built up a wee client base. It's probably grown and developed and got to the stage where I needed some support. So decided to take on Jack's my first employee, and move into the office just to give myself a bit more of credibility, I suppose. Working from home, some people can be put off by not having an office or a venue or something to go to. And someone actually said to me, that's putting me off introducing you to bigger clients because you don't have a premise. So they just look at you as a small business and not want to give you the business from that.
Yeah. And what would you say is your goal now? You're saying you've got 2 employees, so how big do you want your practice to be and that type of thing? I know you're based in Belfast at the moment, though, aren't you?
Yeah, based in Weaver's Court Business Park, which I think's been quite a good move. And anyone who's been there has commented on how sort of professional it looks. It's a serviced office. There's a receptionist. Free car parking. For the first couple of years of business, I spent time driving about Belfast, and you probably spent more time trying to park the car than anything else.
Yeah.
Sometimes people are bringing me probably large documents with information in it, so it's handy for people to know they can come there, get parked, and it's a short walk into the office.
So, in that sense, have you a desire for a particular size of practice? Do you want to be, 10 staff, bigger, smaller?
I suppose right now, being myself and 2 others, sort of growing to 5 or 6, I think would be my optimum sort of goal at the minute.
Okay, very good.
I want to keep it sort of manageable enough that it's a small team.
Yeah. So what would you say was your greatest milestone within your business career so far, and starting your journey with starting working on your own?
Biggest milestone, I suppose. It's scary going from employment to self-employment, but I think taking on that first member of staff, I think the jump from just being me to being responsible for someone else's wages at the end of the month, I think that's been from a mindset point of view as well as anything else. It's kind of the responsibility. The milestone was that moving and taking in the staff member, just changed everything basically, I thought.
Yeah. And how did you overcome that for yourself? You said you need a different mindset or whatever to do, but how did you overcome that? Because I'm sure there's other people out there who are just starting out in business or start a short time and need to take on staff. So how would you advise them or help them with that?
From a mindset point of view, I think it's just speaking to other like-minded professionals who have maybe been on that journey, taking staff members on, and get their advice and just see what's worked for them, what hasn't worked. Like that's probably where BNI's helped me massively. And there's people in my chapter who've been where I've been, and they've moved on to take staff members on, and just the support from the chapter in general throughout that's been incredible.
So what's the one piece of advice you would give somebody who is thinking of taking on employees at the moment?
I suppose being an accountant, it's always going to be do a cash flow, make sure the money's coming in time to get their wages paid every month, make sure the business is coming in, just what training you're going to need to put in place for them, and just, I suppose, understand the time commitment that you need to give them to get them into the practice or into your business and get them up and running.
Yeah. So the question, before we come to Andrew Coach's question, I do want to come to that, but what's your sort of interest? What's your business interest? You are an accountant, but where do you really, because I know you're involved in property or you're interested in working with property people. So have you other interests outside of your normal business as such,
Yes, I've interest in property. I'm a sponsor of Belfast Property Meet. I do have an interest in property. From a young age, I've always liked the idea of buying property, doing it up, selling it on, renting it out. So that's always appealed to me. So whenever I became self-employed, it was actually another member of BNI as well who recommended that I went along to Belfast Property Meet. So from there, I've been able to build on my knowledge of property investing, to be able to pass on to clients, I suppose, too. But just even to pick up business and learn different strategies for property investing. So that's been a passion of mine, which I'm kind of trying to build on now again. And I suppose it's worked well with business as well because it's helped me pick up clients who either have businesses or have investments in property and need tax returns completed.
So would you have many landlords and people like that who property investors on your books now?
I would have built up quite a lot, whether they're doing serviced accommodation, which is sort of your Airbnb sort of stuff,
yeah,
or the more traditional buy-to-lets.
just taking some notes on that. So one of the questions asked by Andrew Coates was, what issues do you feel will hit businesses hardest when the whole social distancing eases and the new normal commences, as we keep talking about? What do you think is going to be the hardest things?
I think people have commented on it before about the whole modern office, the open plan office, which is going to struggle probably whilst this is ongoing. I think people are going to know that they can work from home. Businesses can understand that they can work from home. They could save costs, obviously, with rent rates, travel, car parking, maybe even. So I think businesses are going to reevaluate the need for premises and whether or not they need premises in sort of city centres or whatever. So I think that's going to have a big knock-on impact. Obviously, at the minute, there's bounce back loans and stuff too, which are obviously beneficial at present, but they need to be handled with caution too, because at the end of the day, they are still a loan, and they will need repaid. And I think the whole process for that, where it's self-certification, and I think the money's probably been handed out quite willy-nilly in that regard.
So what have you actually, for business owners at the moment, different sectors, what's available to them, or what have you been helping people with at the moment? You talk about bounce back loans, but how many other things have you been helping clients with at the minute, really, through this whole situation we're in?
I suppose the initial thing was the furloughing of employees, and I've been helping them with their claims for furlough and getting money back into their account. It's probably Suzanne who's taken a lot more to do with that than me. She sort of manages the payroll function within my practice. But it's getting, I suppose, the money in the account to pay the staff, making sure what they're entitled to. Bounce back loans are out now. There was the business interruption loan scheme which came out initially, but it's sort of proved to be a bit of a flop because there's just too much information been asked to actually get the money. But I think the bounce back loans have probably went too much the other way, and it's too much to be handed out too easily. I've been helping businesses with grant claims, people who own business premises. They've been entitled to sort of the £10,000 grant or the £25,000 grant, depending on their sector and depending on NAVs and stuff. There's been horrendous issues with that. I still myself have an issue with the postcode lookup on the form. So I think there's been a lot of teething problems with the systems that have been developed, and I've been trying to, I suppose, ease clients' minds. Or a lot of them are getting quite frantic that they're obviously entitled to the money, and some people are getting theirs quicker than others, and things are just taking a bit longer. Probably more so recently is the self-employment grant support which is coming out. HMRC have advised that accountants can actually make the claim for their client. The client has to do it themselves. So that's proven a problem for a lot of clients who maybe aren't technically minded and don't really do much with computers. They're maybe more hands-on, and I'm trying to get them set up with their own HMRC portals to find out when they can make their claim and try and help them with their claim. Other people have needed to go on to universal credit and things like that to help them through these difficult times, and that's obviously comes with its own issues and problems and everything else.
So you're looking at really what you've mentioned there today was furloughing, the loans, the grants, and self-employment really is the stuff coming forward at the moment.
Yeah, there's a hardship fund which has been announced by Diane Dodds this week. Okay. It's going to come out next week. There's no real detail on it yet, but that's going to be for businesses who are suffering as a result of the coronavirus but haven't been able to receive either the £10,000 grant or the £25,000 grant because they don't have business benefit.
Yeah. And again, I suppose there are people out there in the entertainment sector who sort of missed some of the other things that are out there. I mean, what industries have missed out on some of these things, Nigel, or people?
I suppose your freelancers who don't have business premises, who maybe, well, photographers, for example, maybe creatives in the film industry and stuff. who don't need a business premises because they're always going on site or on set. Maybe some consultants who work from home. The business is probably like that died basically or stopped, and they haven't been able to get either of the big claims because they don't have business premises and there's no requirement for business premises.
There's one particular person I would follow from a marketing perspective, and at the very start of this whole thing, he said there were 7 steps. He said to protect people within the COVID-19. And one comment he put was, this was his 4th opinion: take the money. Across the world, governments are putting billions into funding small businesses. You may or may not agree with how they're doing it, but if there's cash available, take it. Even if you don't need it right now, take it. Cash is king. And then he goes on to talk about the different things in VAT and all the rest from the UK and America. What would your opinion be to that?
I suppose different people are going to have different opinions on that. That probably relates to the self-employment grant, and probably the grants for premises. Like these schemes have to be rolled out so quickly. They do come with flaws. Like the £10,000 grant, there can be businesses who maybe really need that and really need that money, but other businesses who maybe are still able to operate, still able to do stuff, and their business hasn't really suffered, but yet they're able to get the money. So I suppose it comes down to your ethical viewpoint on that. From that perspective, the self-employment grant, people have been asking me about that. My viewpoint on that: if you're self-employed, can anyone say your business hasn't suffered from coronavirus? Unless you're really in food production or one of those more essential services.
And I think maybe also as well, it may not have suffered straight away, but there's going to be a suffering after it as well. That's a perception I find. What we're saying, I think that sometimes we're maybe living in a wee bit of a bubble, at the minute.
We all know with business, it's one thing getting the invoice out, it's another thing getting it paid.
Yeah.
Which is sort of in around the thing there, which you were saying, cash is king.
Well, I think this man who was saying doing this, he was saying if there's money available, take it. If it's a loan, take it. If it's the right rates, take it, type of thing, that you have, you cash in your business, see through the foreseeable future.
There's no doubt about the bounce back loans. Like 2.5% for a loan, no repayments for the first year. You're never going to see that as a business owner ever again. My viewpoint on that is there's 12 months payment free. If you're good with money and can have 25% of your turnover, 50 grand, sit in your bank account and not spend it unless you really need it, I would say by all means go ahead and apply for that loan and have the money in your bank account for any day for the next 12 months, just in case you need it. You could repay that one day before the year's up and not incur any interest or any charges. So certainly from that perspective, it makes fantastic business sense from a cash flow point of view, to have that money there. But if you're not good with money, if you are the type of person who fritters money away willy-nilly, then I would question whether that's a good idea for you. Whether you're going to fritter it away on things which aren't for business or things which you don't actually need. You could find yourself then in 12 months' time having to repay a loan and looking back on it and go, well, what did I actually get for that? So you could actually put your business in a worse position than it actually is now in 12 months' time whenever you have to start repaying the loan back.
Yeah, I suppose you need to be very careful. We still have a number of people who's listening online, and it's really good that you're here. Can I just ask, if you are and you want any questions to ask Nigel, we're going to be here for another short time, and if you have any questions, drop them into the chat box, which would be fantastic for us all. You mentioned earlier you've got landlords as sort of part of your client bank of people. So what other industries would be your typical people in your client bank, Nigel, at the moment?
There will be a lot of people in around the IT sector and consultancy sector. A lot of people who work freelance in the bigger IT companies. Now this is probably quite touchy subject at the minute. It's in around IR35 and whether or not people are employed or whether they're self-employed. I do have a number of people on that, so probably from my own business point of view, I was kind of quite relieved whenever they announced the delayment of the IR35. But that even came too late for a lot of people. And I think there's been actually reviews of that challenge now, and they might actually ease the IR35 restrictions that are going to come into place. There's benefits to IR35, both from the tax point of view, where the individuals sit self-employed, so they can expense more items legitimately and save a bit more tax. And from the employer's point of view, they're maybe saving the pension costs. There's no sick pay to pay, no holiday pay. Obviously, there's no contract involved. There's no redundancy. So it works two ways. From that point of view, there's benefits and cons to IR35, and I'll be interested to see what the sort of the next 12 months brings.
So IT type people, landlords, what other type of people have you been doing work for? Just to get a flavour of
a lot of consultants. So you have recruitment consultants, you have HR, you have management consultants, you have financial consultants who maybe work for banks on a contract basis. And then you're down to the sort of more retail sector, your cafes, your coffee shops, your takeaways, your car washes, your farmers. There's kind of a broad spectrum. Certainly, yes, the more lucrative work for me, or the more beneficial work, is that consultancy sector. There's a lot more consultants out there.
Yeah, no, very good. And I suppose you've got some clients who are actually going through a very difficult time at the moment. And again, we talked about those things that I wrote down, the furloughing, the loans, the grants, the self-employment, and the hardship loan or funds that are coming potentially. So those are all things that people are crying for at the moment.
Yeah.
And I know you're always looking for more business because you've got that desire to grow as well. What sort of things are people maybe going through at the moment, maybe that you're hearing that maybe accountants aren't helping them with, that possibly could be reaching out to you?
I think the big thing is communication. You always hear about communication, and I think clients right now want communication. They want their mind to be put at rest. They don't want to be sitting for days and days and days worried about something. Worried about do they have money to pay the bills? Do they have money to pay their rent? Do they have money to pay the wages? For instance. So I think if you were struggling before this with communication with your accountant, that's probably under more pressure now. To put a bit of a defensive shield up for accountants, like they are under intense pressure right now. Every client wants to speak to them. So there has to be a balance. There has to be a bit of understanding that the accountants are trying to work on furlough, and they're trying to work on accounts. They're trying to keep the compliance side of things up. So on top of the normal day-to-day stuff, there is all this extra stuff. Certainly, if you haven't heard from your accountant and you're trying to get in touch with them, they're not responding to you, then that's certainly a time where you should be thinking about that relationship, and is that really beneficial for both of you? The accountant should be there right now to give you the advice and support that you want, to try and help you put your mind at ease.
So come back to normal situations as opposed to just where we're at the moment. What would you say is the people, like, you've attracted clients, so you have, and you've grown your client bank, and your business is developing as you go. Why did people come to you? What was the problems they were potentially having that were red flags, and they jump ship as such, and they come to you to work with you?
I suppose for some people it comes down to money. Money's not the all important thing here. Largely it's communication and advice. I've had people saying that, oh, I feel my accountant's working for HMRC, not for me. At the end of the day, we're there to push boundaries to a certain extent, but not breach them. So it's just having an insight into the business, getting an understanding behind the mechanics of the business, and understanding where their costs are that they may not have been thinking about before. like there's people out there who do mileage for their business who don't claim it, go to training events or go to networking events and aren't claiming all the costs. Sometimes they maybe have £20 in their pocket, they'll pay cash for something and forget to put it through on the records. So it's just simple things like that where you're being more inquisitive of clients and asking them where they spend their money and things like that. And some people just feel they weren't getting that advice from their accountant before. Their books were basically on the information they provided, which isn't always the case because a lot of business owners are more focused on business and getting the money in than sort of trying to keep the records behind that.
Oh, very good. I mean, every piece of receipt I had, whether it was a cup of coffee or whatever, while I was out having a business meeting, I always sought to claim it. So,
yeah,
just that understanding of what people are going through. You talked about communication. So, what type of things would you do, or how do you communicate to your client base? What type of ways would you communicate to them?
I've been doing a lot of stuff on Facebook recently with posts, just to try and educate clients a wee bit and try and see where the information and guidance that I'm giving is coming from. That sort of sparked them into action to think about something and maybe even give me a call or a text message or something. But like I work off all platforms of communication, Facebook messaging. Some people have even just sent messages through on Facebook. Do WhatsApp. We've had to look more at TeamViewer and Zoom calls and stuff for clients recently to have meetings and chat about things and basically all sorts of communication just to get the word out there. Earlier on this week, I've had to do like a bulk email out to all my self-employed clients and explain to them the process for setting up a government gateway account with HMRC for this self-employment claim.
Yeah, excellent. Well, I mean, all those stuff, and I've seen a lot of really good information coming out, and yet there's likely people out there who are not getting any communication. I was speaking to a man recently, and he said he was getting nothing from his accountant, and he was a bit disgusted and was potentially looking for a new accountant because of it. So people are getting, will make decisions later on in so many ways.
Yeah.
So you've been part of, when we're on this call really, or on this live stream because you're part of BNI, and it's really, there's a member spotlight, and we're spotlighting on you today as an accountant, and you have that tagline, putting the axe into tax. So I do take it you're trying to save as much tax as possible with things that you've been saying.
Well, within the boundaries, yes, but even just the putting the axe into tax just comes down to taking the pressure and the stresses of compliance and doing tax returns and doing the accounts and making sure all the submissions are made on time. It's taking away all the hassles to do with tax, not just sort of trying to save the client as much money as possible. It's more taking giving them more time to focus on their business and grow their business as opposed to worry about submitting a VAT return or submitting a payroll submission or the end of year accounts. Sort of leave that to me and I'll deal with that kind of thing.
I know that
as well.
Sorry, I was going to say I know sometimes small business owners or solopreneurs would be very much want to do it themselves. What would your advice be to the person who just wants to do their own thing?
Well, I suppose can you be a jack of all trades? That person's obviously specialised in what they're good at, whether it be HR or video production or something like that. I'm obviously specialised in accountancy. So it's kind of like, would you go to your best mate and ask him to perform an operation on you that might save your life or might, in my sense, save your business without the relevant qualifications? Don't get me wrong, accountancy isn't a protected industry. There are accountants out there who have no qualifications who are perfectly good at their job, but it's finding the right person for you, I suppose. And I suppose what I was talking about earlier on, it's asking those inquisitive questions. My brain, I suppose, is trained to understand the business and understand where the costs are in the business and trying to get those out of the client on the paper. And it's also knowing what you can claim for and what you can't claim for. Like on the landlord front, I saw landlords who have tried to claim the capital repayment of their mortgage as an expense, when really it's only the interest element. So it's making sure that things are done correctly and done in a timely fashion.
Yeah. We actually have a comment here from Brendan Collins, so I'm just going to read it out. He says, I've been working in the same tech company for the last 21 years. Unfortunately, made redundant next week. Luckily, I've invested in property over the years and should have the income to keep me afloat so long as the majority of tenants remain. But owning property means I can't access any government employment benefits. So hoping to get access to some of these hardship grants, loans in order to have future cash flow. So here was somebody who's got property and the issues are going on. Is there anything that you could advise him, Nigel, based on where he is at the moment, potentially?
Yeah, I suppose you're going to have to watch this space with the hardship fund. The question I would ask is, if your properties are rented out and you're getting your rent paid okay, do you actually need any sort of support from that perspective? Or what is it you're trying to obtain the cash flow for? There's obviously the mortgage payment holidays if you've got properties that are vacant. Granted, that's only a cash flow sort of improvement, and you'll still incur the interest. Unfortunately, with the hardship fund, we don't know any details on it yet to know who's going to qualify for that. But I suppose with all these government supports and grants, we have to bear in mind that it is for businesses affected by coronavirus, and if your property business, so to speak, hasn't been affected, then the likelihood of getting any sort of support is less likely.
And I think property, I suppose, in some ways has been going okay. I mean, I don't have a lot of property, but I have a couple of houses and the income's coming in, so I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah. I think the issue with property has been the serviced accommodation market. The people who have properties, who have them on Airbnb and Booking.com and things like that, because there's no tourists basically at the minute. So there's no one looking to rent accommodation wherever your Airbnb property is or whatever. So I think those are the people that are have been really badly affected by this, and because the tourism market sort of fallen on the floor. So obviously their property business is going to have suffered. So there may be something in the hardship fund for them.
And yeah, there's nothing come across for that yet, has there?
There's been nothing yet because it's not a business premise. There's been no availability of the grant supports, because the grant supports are just based on commercial property.
Yeah, Brendan has made a comment. He's come back in. Thanks, Brendan. See, I've been told by my bank that I'm not eligible for the bounce back loan as property let business is not a trading business.
That's the unfortunate thing with property business as well. A lot of property traders were asking me the question about the self-employment grant. Property is not treated as self-employment. Unfortunately, it's a Schedule A rental income, so it's investment income. So unfortunately, there's a gap there. There's been gaps everywhere, and I suppose it really would take me to understand what you're looking to bounce back loan for. Is it because your business has suffered? Is it because you're looking to, I suppose, buy more property? So it's just the questions and understanding that element.
Nigel, do you mind if I share your email address in the chat box?
No, perfect. Yeah.
So I'm just putting this out here. It's accounts at NBAS Consultants. So I'm just putting that out there. And again, for Brendan, if you want to connect with Nigel even after this, drop him an email, which would be fantastic, because part of today is about connecting people as well. So Nigel, you've been part of BNI, and that's why we're here. So tell me, what was your journey with BNI? How long have you been part of it? I know you've been, I've nearly forgot. How long you remember now?
I think all in, it's probably been 6 years. I think the first year and a half was with my former employer, and I suppose BNI has helped me get the confidence to take the next step to self-employment. I suppose, speaking truthfully, it didn't really work out that great for my former employer. We weren't really getting into referrals and introductions. I suppose that was potentially because it was more difficult for me to agree prices and so on and so forth. But the support I got from my own chapter, once I took the step into self-employment, has been tenfold, and I really can't thank them enough. The amount of the amount of them that were prepared to give me their work and introduce me to their clients. So I've been out by myself now for 4.5 years, and I would say really that 4.5 year period, it's been exceptional, really. Your accountant's one of those relationships where if you get the introduction, look after your client, and do the job properly, they're a client for life.
Yeah. And again, I suppose you're talking about being a part of BNI, and it takes time to build trust in those circumstances. So one thing is clear, it's come across, is you've made money from BNI, or that's what's been a big thing for you. The fact is it gave you confidence. So what other things has BNI given to you, even apart from the money? Has there been other things there as well?
It's a support. It's just knowing that there's like-minded people in the room who are maybe at different stages of business, maybe on different journeys, but at the end of the day, we're all in business together. Business has so many similarities. It's having the network there for advice and support, that if for whatever reason something's not going right, or you're struggling with something, it's knowing that you can just pick up the phone and phone one of them and speak to them and say, here, look, I'm struggling with this. Have you ever come across this? Just get that, I suppose, support from them. BNI has also been good at training. It's encouraged me, like back at secondary school, I would have been probably the shyest kid in the class. It's encouraged me to reach out there, go outside my comfort zone, do public speaking. Probably at high school I wouldn't even have dreamt about something like come on a Facebook Live, but now it's second nature. It's just how you present yourself, how you present your business, what different aspects of business that you should be looking at.
Well, I think in some ways we're all learning at the moment, and I know we're casual here in what we're doing today, and it's a bit of fun as well. But just maybe to finish off with, we've got a good insight to yourself where you're at with the business. We're going 4.5 years. You talked about your wife and your daughter, 6 months. We've got a lot of personal stuff and your interests and all that there, and some of the typical clients you're working with and the issues they have and how you're helping to overcome them. But is there one story? Is there one real success story that you've really helped somebody? And I don't need to know the names of the person, but is there one really good success story you could hold up and say, this is what I did and I was really proud of helping this particular client?
This one actually comes back.
So this is the first time to ask it. So
this actually is a really old question, but I'm not obviously going to mention any names for client confidentiality. But it's a past BNI member who sold the property and asked me to look at their capital gains calculation. They had already paid the capital gains, and just got chatting to me one day about it over breakfast. Just asked me to have a look at it. Actually thought he was paying too much. So me being me, just looked at it and sort of asked him the questions. He owned the property, lived in it for a period of time, and then rented it out once he got married. So in calculating his capital gains, he hadn't even thought about or known to think about principal private residence relief. So he was able to get principal private residence relief for the period of time that he lived in the property, and I think there was an extra, at that stage, 18 months on the back end of it while he was renting it out as well. So I recalculated the figures, and I think after a bit of to and fro with HMRC, I think he got in the region of £14,500 back in tax.
So that was definitely a success story for him.
Yeah, that comes back again to the benefits of doing it yourself and employing someone who knows what they're doing and knows what reliefs are available.
I heard a story the other day, I read a story, and I don't know whether I've repeated this already this week, but it was this woman who was locked out of her car, and she was praying that somebody would come and help her. And with that, there was this man come down, tattooed man with his big Harley Davidson, come down and said, "What's wrong?" And she said, "Try getting in my car. I've locked my keys in." She says, leave it with me. And he goes into the local shop, comes out with a coat hanger, opens the car door. And she says, I'm just so thankful. She says, I was praying that someone would come and help me, and you're such a good person. The man said, I'm not a good person. He says, I've just got out of jail. She says, what were you in jail for? He says, for breaking into cars. And she says, I'm just so thankful then that God sent a professional today to help me. So in that sense, it's a professional that's important. So that's what you do. So that's excellent. I mean, we've been running these spotlights now for the last 3 weeks, and we're really glad that Nigel has been on here and explained a lot of stuff. And if you do have any questions you've got for Nigel, please send it that email address that's in the chat box. Please feel free to do that. I'm sure Nigel will reach out and try and help you and support you in what's going on, or even a piece of advice. So really glad Nigel's here. We do hope to do some more of these next week. So we are doing member spotlights on people who in BNI. So just as we close, Nigel, is there any last thing you'd like to say, or?
Not really. I suppose just what you were saying there about you think hiring a professional is expensive. We can tell you hire an amateur and see how much that costs your business. That's the quote that's sort of always very poignant on what you just said there.
Yep, very good.
Apart from that, I would just say, look, stay safe out there. If you need any help, just drop me an email, drop me a call, whether you're a client or not a client, or just even need someone to talk to, because mental health is just as important nowadays as business, and business is surviving. So like, don't be scared, no matter what your struggles are. Reach out there, speak to someone. And I'm only a phone call away if anyone ever just wants to talk about anything.
Yeah, there's Alan Hill's making a comment. Even though you support Manchester United, I think he means here, well done, Nigel. Great man and great interview. So fantastic. Thanks very much, Alan, for joining in today, and thank you for listening. We do thank you, and as I say, we'll hopefully do these again. There was some real great conversations. And if there's people out there Nigel can help, please introduce them to Nigel and do their best, because we all need to help each other at this time. BNI's new sort of slogan is now more than ever. So we need to be working with a strong referral network to gain as much business as possible. So thank you again, Nigel, for being on today. I really appreciate it.
No problem, Andrew. Thank you for the opportunity.
All right. Thank you.